Hello, welcome to the second day of the Trendy Woman 6. It's a pleasure to have you here. Okay, so PF will be joining us shortly. He'll be joining us shortly if he's not here already. Okay, let me add PF to the meeting. Okay, and then we'll read his profile and begin. Okay. Good morning, PF. Thank you so much, sir, for choosing to be here.
Good morning, Sage. How are you today?
I'm very fine, PF. Thank you, sir. Okay, so we'll go right into your profile and then we will begin. Praise Fowowe is an unconventional thinker, futuristic and Africa premier creator and trainer of family systems engineering, a body of knowledge that assists family build systems that support their happiness. As the principal consultant of Praise Fowowe International and founder of Center for Sex Education and Family Life, he is an internationally acclaimed sexuality education strategist and family life therapist. He is credited and regarded as the foremost sexuality educator and strategist to have come out of Africa. A highly innovative strategist blessed with original insights on relationships that have been applauded all over the continent as one of the most effective when it comes to family life and sexual abuse prevention issues. With over 15 years experience in handling family life issues all over Nigeria, Praise is one of the best and the few go-to persons you would ever listen to on family life, sexuality, and workplace relationship. He is an authority in the field and frame of reference for many. He has developed several life-changing content in his quest to rid this continent and the world of sex predators and pedophiles. Through his work, homes and thousands of lives have been restored to their healthy and sane states. As a sexuality education strategist, Praise has created what is regarded as the most complete sexuality education kit for families and schools in Nigeria for the prevention of child sexual abuse, and his latest Child Power Challenge, which is a 52-week course that empowers every child against predators, presently runs in 4 continents. As a trainer and disruptive thinker, Praise has facilitated personal effectiveness and superior relationship skills session for some of the best brands in the country. He has implemented basic sexuality education for several schools, government agencies, and religious bodies in Nigeria. His original and effective thoughts on relationship have helped several couples handle marriage and parenting better. As Africa Premier's trainer of Family System Engineering Certification Program, Praise assists stakeholders with tools and strategies that helps them accurately diagnose marital cases and resolve them within the shortest possible time. His Family Systems Engineering Certification Program is now regarded as the most effective family life program for family life coaches and therapists. He consults for various sectors in the Nigerian economy, educational, oil and gas, banking, and government agencies. He also sits on the board of a number of companies. Praise is a master practitioner of the linguistic programming and is a choice trainer and facilitator at conferences. Praise believes the problem of the world is an adult and the solution to that problem is a child. He's happily married to Tosin, one of the nation's finest family finance experts, and they are blessed with David and Charis. Thank you so much, PF, for being here again. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. If you are unaware of what the topic is about, we're going to be focusing on how to co-parent, especially single mothers, how single mothers can effectively co-parent with the fathers of their child. PF, I'll start with this question. One of the most difficult struggles that single mothers have in this day and age, and having conversed with a number of them, is the challenge of effectively co-parenting with their father, with the child's father. So a lot of people share that they are they don't have available fathers, or the man is not just as responsible, or he just drops money. It's usually one of those dynamics that comes into play. In this kind of situation, PF, and coming from the point of a single mother, what can be done to help foster that cordial relationship where they can both co-parent their child effectively, even if they're not having a fantastic relationships between themselves?
Okay, thank you very much, Sage. I must first apologize ahead of time. An emergency came up for me with Lagos State government, so I mean they are on my neck. But let me dive straight to your question. Now, there is identity and there are roles.
Okay.
Now, when you don't separate identity from roles, you are going to mess up a whole lot of things. So, parenting and marriage, or having a child together, are different movies. That's the best way to describe it.
Okay.
Every movie has got a script, has got a plot, has got actors and actresses, has got the roles demand, right? Now, when you mix, so let's say myself and Sage, we were actors and actresses in a movie called Marriage, or Sleeping Together, or whatever it is, right? And that movie ended in a tragedy. Because the two of us are professionals, when we show up in the next movie, which is the movie called Parenting, we cannot bring the grudge of the movie of Sleeping Together into the movie of Parenting. Unfortunately, that's the mistake people make, because in the script and the actors, the main actors in the movie of Marriage or Sleeping Together, are the two adults sleeping with themselves. However, in Parenting, the main actor is the child. Parents are now support cast. Now, when you don't understand these fundamentals, you are going to mess things up. Because the fact that we had a bad experience or the movie ended in a tragedy in Marriage does not now mean that we'll bring the grudge into co-parenting. Because co-parenting is another movie entirely, another script, another plot, another cast, and another ending. The goal of co-parenting is to create an ideal environment where the best interest of the child is taken care of and the best version of the child will emerge. So, the mistake people make is this. They do not know that you can be a bad lover and a good father. They don't know that that's possible. You can be a bad man and a fantastic husband and a bad father. You can be a bad husband, a good man, and a good father. Because husband and fatherhood, or being a wife and motherhood, are roles that are optional and roles that require basic demand. Now, if you don't understand the role demand and you don't have the skills to undo those roles, you're going to mess it up. It's like being a bad accountant and you say because you're a bad accountant, then you are a bad human being. No, I may be a bad lover, but it doesn't mean I can't be a good father. But problem is people are always overlapping these roles, bringing one movie into another, right? Simply because it's the same person. No, you need to be civil when it comes to co-parenting. Love is failed, parenting must not fail. Now, when we understand this fundamental, then we can now begin to say, is the person I want to co-parent, does he have the capacity to co-parent? Because if he doesn't have the capacity to co-parent, then is a mobile sperm donor bank. It's not a father. So it can also be a pseudo surrogate mother whose womb and egg was used to fertilize the ovary was used to fertilize the sperm that brought a child here. So we mistake all these things. Because a child came out of you doesn't mean you are a mother. Because you donated semen doesn't make you a father, or else every sperm we pick from sperm bank will be father. So if it doesn't have the capacity, The problem is you mistook a human mobile sperm bank for a potential father. So now that it has been, because I don't know what kind of farmer will plant a seed and run away. I don't want anything to happen with the seed.
No want anything,
so
yes.
the only person that can do that is the person who has gone to donate semen and says, I don't care who comes to collect this semen to fertilize the egg. I just want to help humanity. So if that understanding is clear, you will stop bothering some people and say, come and be a father. Because fatherhood is not sperm donation. Sperm donation is a form of fatherhood. It doesn't have to be fatherhood. Right? Because the word father is the word ab. Ab means the source of inspiration, source of identity, source of esteem, and source of security. That's why in the Jewish culture, you would see the prefix ab and a word to show that the kind of source that you are. So you see ab shalom. It means father of peace. You see ab plus raham. That is father of nations. So fatherhood is not sperm donation. When you understand this, then you will calm down and now say, is this person a father? Should we even begin to talk about come and be a father to your child? Or should I just assume? Because it's again, it now comes about narrative management. If the narrative is, I wanted a baby, I was just unfortunate to have a mobile sperm bank who has donated semen, then let me take responsibility for this child and forget about him. But wherein is now willing, or both of you are willing to co-parent, that's a different ballgame entirely. Then you will need mediation. You will need people to take you through to now say, what do we want? Who is this child? That's the first thing.
Who is this child?
Two, who must we become to raise this child? That is casting. To now say, what role do we need to play? And the role must be scripted. You cannot act contrary to the role. You cannot today get angry and go on social media and say the father of this child is useless. So no, because you are not the director of this role. So when we understand those two, then we will know who we need to become to get the best out of the child and the support system we will need to ensure that this child becomes the best version of himself, in spite of the fact that the two people who came together to give birth to this child are no longer together. So that is where this matter starts from. If you don't understand this foundation I have laid, co-parenting will be stressful. In fact, it will be World War III, and you will sabotage the best interest of the child because the two irresponsible adults or one irresponsible person who is sabotaging everything has refused to understand the tenets of co-parenting. So maybe that will be my good introduction.
Wow, thank you so much, PF. PF, you said something about who you must become. Who must you become?
Yes.
So, PF, who must co-parents become? Or even generally, I'm sure parents can learn from this to actually effectively parent a child, especially in the context of single parenting. Who must they become?
So, who you must become is predicated on who the child is. A child is a seed. The parents are the seed handlers. The environment is also critical to the best interest of the seed. Now, if you have a seed in your hand, the first question you want to ask is, what is this seed? That's why the role as a parent from ages 0 to 3 is a role called scouting. Your job is to activate your observational skill to pick the signal your child is sending and interpret accurately, which a lot of parents never do. Because once you interpret accurately, the child is at the purest form of his life between ages 0 to 3. That's why you can't shout on the child within that age. You can't beat a child at that age. You can't do many of the things we're doing. You can't say the child is wicked. No, the child is exploring his environment, and it's your responsibility to observe. From ages 4 to 6, you now become a model. That's why if you have observed properly, interpreted accurately, we now say from 4 to 6, we're going to be model. So we're going to model that two people may not marry, but they can work together. We're going to model competence. So our child is going to see us work. It's going to see us relate. It's going to see us do things together. You are going to do that, play that role between 4 to 6. Because from 7 to 9, your role is an instructor. The two of you must now become instructors, where you now create a curriculum based on the trait this child has shown. This is what we want this child to learn. This is what we want the child to be exposed to, right? The curriculum will be shared with the two of you, and you deploy it as at W.O.N.D.I.V.A, where daddy will take some, mommy will take some. Because from ages 10 to 12, your role changes to become a friend. At that age, you now begin to test your child's ability to teach you certain things. So basic things as, come and teach us the latest dance step, the latest slang. You know, what can you teach us? You must come together to do that, right? So your child becomes a friend to daddy and mommy at that age, because from age 13 to 18, you both become coaches. At the level of coaching, you balance the perspective of the child, because at that age, the child should have mastered his values, must have mastered his environment, and all those things. Now, when you understand, so ideally, the two people should take courses on coaching to better understand how coaching works, because you now do strategy with your child at that age. Because from age 19, you are no longer needed except for advisory. Parenting is an 18-year curriculum. What happens from age 19 is your report card. At 19, you are a cheerleader and you are a technical advisor. Now, so you can see that within the movie called Parenting, and for the two people to end up in happy ending, they need to understand how to switch from one role to the other at every milestones in the developmental stages in the life of the child. Especially when you now have a situation where the two of them now go and marry someone else. Then blended family system now needs to come into place, where we begin to look at the dynamics and begin, which is why scripting, in fact, the future of parenting, or the new rule of parenting, is scripting. You need to intentionally script a child. If you have been given a script that this is what we expect you to act, you cannot develop your own mind today and say, I got angry and I slapped the child because of what his father did. No, you need to follow the script, or else as the director we are allowed to take you out. That is why in some countries, if it has been proven that you don't have the capacity to co-parent, they can actually withdraw your child from you. Of course, we don't have that in Africa yet. I think Lagos tried to do something like that, you know, but it's what it is. Now, so you need to, everybody, even an average parent knows who they want their child to be, but they don't know who they need to become for their child to emerge. And that is where the problem is, because you cannot retain that you and produce your child. If you retain you, the best you will produce is another version of you, right? And that's why our parents were messed up, they messed us up. They were beating, they beat us. They shouted on us. So now we are shouting on our children, because the handler is installing programs into you at every point in time. That's why the life of a child is in the hand of the handler. So the handler can do whatever, can install anger, can install shouting, can install disorderliness, can install excellence, can install mediocrity, can install hypocrisy, based on the behavior of the handler. And that's why we always say, can people first fix themselves and become whole before they begin to parent? Because if there are pains in you, then it's going to be tough for you to parent effectively, because you will pass out what is inside of you to the child. If they squeeze me now and Mukaila comes out, then I am Mukaila, I am not Prince Fowowe, right? Because when you are squeezed, what comes out of you is who you are. So if you are squeezed and pain comes out, then there's pain within you. If anger comes out, there's anger within you. As a matter of fact, if you are a Christian, for example, your children will test if you have truly mastered the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. They will show practically in parenting. And that's why before people co-parent, we have to sit them down, take them through the basics, take them through like 11 or 12 step process for them to understand what they are getting into, and for them to develop the script to run this effectively. Then we can now monitor. Basically, that's what it is.
Oh, wow. Just a lot of teachings. Thank you so much. We have a lot of value in such a short time. The next question I want to ask you, if I'll make it 2 in 1, is number 1, you spoke about scripting. How can parents, in the most basic way, because the truth is, you have to come for PF, read his material to get the full package. But in the most basic way that you can, how can parents go about scripting? There's a new single mom now, she just gave birth, maybe she's 20 or 18. How can she even go about starting that scripting concept? Because she's probably not aware of it. I will start with that. Okay, well, then the second question, the two-in-one question, the second question will be, PF, you spoke about the importance of basically not passing across the pain through especially beatings and all of that to children. But many people do not know more than this. How can single parents, especially mothers who are already frustrated at some point, raise their child without spanking, slapping, and just basically trying to injure them because of the hurt that they are feeling?
That is why scripting is very important. I said to you that observation is the first skill, which is you must be a scout. Now, there's what we call the concept of the perceptual code. Perceptual code is the descriptive word that represents who your child is and that governs how you relate with that child behaviorally. So let me give you an example. If you say this child is a royalty, let's say that's the perceptual code you have chosen. Who is a royalty? You go online and check who a royalty is. How do you raise a royalty? You will check it. How do you correct a royalty? So, if you say my child is a royalty, so for example, Prince Harry, there is nothing Prince Harry does that will make the Queen slap Prince Harry. Prince Harry remains Prince Harry, irrespective of what he does, including his mistake. That's what the father was teaching in the story of the prodigal son. When the prodigal son came back, he came back as a servant in his mind. The father accepted him back as a son to remind him that a son can never be a servant. So what the father did was to restore him back to sonship, to say you misbehaved because you forgot who you were, or you didn't even know who you are, because every misbehavior can be traced to non-discovery of self or a non-remembrance of self. If I don't know who I am, I'm going to mess up. If I forget who I am, I'm going to mess up. Then you have parents who don't know who they are, trying to raise children. How does that child know who he is? So, if you say this child is a royalty, now if it does something that is wrong, you want to correct a behavior, right? Which is the word discipline. The word discipline is the Latin word disciplina. It means to instruct, to groom, to correct, and to disciple. In case you don't understand discipleship, if you are a Christian, when you win a soul, you say you have won a soul for the Lord. Then you begin to quote as newborn baby, desire the sincere milk of the word that you may grow thereby. So, let's say the guy used to smoke, is now born again, according to you. 10 months into his, 3 years after being born again, you now see him is smoking again, right? What are you going to do? Are you going to get angry, slap him? You are not slapping him. You recognize that he's 3 years old in the Lord, so you call him a toddler. So you go to him and say, bro, why are you doing this now? You know, the Bible says it doesn't expect you to sin, but if anyone sin, we have an advocate with the Father. So you do that for a newborn baby spiritually. But you do the opposite for a newborn baby physically. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Because within the ambit of discipline, there is no spanking and yelling. But there are two other words. One is domestication. Domestication is the Latin word domesticatus, which means to tame and to put under and to clip somebody's wings. So whenever your parents said, I'm going to clip your wings, I'm going to tame you, they are not disciplining you. They are saying, I'm going to domesticate you. There's a third word, punishment, is the Latin word punire. Punishment means to avenge and to inflict pain. That is what we do when we spank and yell. So the question is, do you want to discipline, domesticate, or punish? You need to tell us the one you want to do, right? Now, not understanding this is the reason why parents just do whatever they like. So, if I backtrack a bit and you say my child is a royalty, and he does something that you don't like, the first thing you do is to question him and ask, who are you? Because the environment is scripted to make a child doubt who he is and to mess up his esteem. So, you teach him something, He goes to school. They tell him, gender doesn't have to be assigned at birth. You can become anything, right? He watches movies. He sees a lot of misbehavior. His identity becomes questioned. In fact, if you are a sane person in our world today, you will begin to question your sanity. If you live in Nigeria and you want to do things right, you don't want to collect bribe, then after 20 years of working, you are still not likely to be rich. Then you see everyone driving cars, you begin to question your sanity. That am I okay? Am I okay? Your children can't pay school. You can't pay school fees. Your children will even question you to say, which kind of God are you serving? So these are the things happening where the identity of your child is questioned. Now, when his identity is questioned, and he now finds the other thing more appealing, and he begins to learn that behavior, in agricultural science we call it the weed. Your child is the plant. The bad behavior is the weed. What should you attack? The plant or the weed? It's the weed. Right? Which is where you embrace your child, then you reject the behavior. But in attacking the weed, you need to understand the weed so that you don't uproot the plant with the weed. What many of us do is we equate our child to the weed and we uproot the weed. So his esteem is compromised. He no longer has confidence in himself. He doesn't even know who he is anymore. So when you have domesticated him and he's no longer talking, he's no longer complaining, he's no longer doing anything, you begin to clap. You say he's a good child. He's an obedient child. At what cost? At what cost? What's the opportunity cost of what you have done? So he can no longer dare. So let me bring this home and cite an example. A child is on the table. He wants to jump. And he begins to sing, Baba mi kolebe, iya mi kolebe, emi ni kolebe, bebe. What is he saying? Whatever my father is actually saying, I'm going to break the record of my parent. Now you know that he can enjoy himself. So what should you do to protect him? What do you say? Don't jump, oh, you will break your leg. By trying to protect him, you have introduced fear and limitation to his potential. So because he will now be afraid, he will not jump. But there are other things he will never aspire to become. He will not jump at them because you have limited his potential. You could have told him, you can jump, but this jump is can we start from junior jump and create a shorter place that he can stand on and jump and say, you know what, when you clock 6, you'll be able to jump this one. That will be senior jump. It will become aspirational for him. He will keep jumping and daring things. Many of us don't dare big things because our parents struck fear into you and we have remained small. It's the same way. So it's important for you to create a perceptual code for your child and to stick to it. If your children are royalties, how do we correct royalties? You know, adults are actually disrespectful to children and they expect the children to respect them. Because something is in your brain. Is my child. I feed him, I clothe him, so I've earned the right to be misbehaving to him. And that brings me to spanking and caning. If we all generally agree that spanking can correct bad behavior, why do we administer it to only a child? Whatever can correct a behavior can correct a behavior. So if spanking can correct the behavior, when daddy misbehaves, let us spank him. When mommy misbehaves, let us spank her. Since spanking can correct a behavior. That's our conclusion. Because it cannot correct the behavior for a child and not be able to correct the behavior for an adult. There were things your parents beat you about that you are still struggling with till now. So and you see, and I'm not against spanking, but many of us spank because spanking does not require brain, it does not require thinking. If you now ask people to think about what a child is doing and come up with another disciplinary measure, you realize that task is too hard because they don't want to think. We hate to think, so we do what is convenient. And spanking is very common. You don't need brain to spank. You don't need energy. You don't need any sense to spank. Just beat. So, when you identify the perceptual code of your child, then you will now need to adjust, because if your child is a royalty, then you are a royal mother, which will affect your own identity. It will affect your communication. It will affect how you see what your child does, and it will affect how you correct your child. So this simple strategy is what I teach people, that a lot of parents now say to me, Praise, I have stopped shouting. I have stopped, because if your child, you suddenly realize that your child is the president of America, will you talk to him the way you are talking right now? You will not talk to him like that. You will find another way. Or let's say your child is not your child is the president, the child of President Buhari. How will you talk to that child? You will talk with respect. So you are pretending that you don't have respect, or that you don't know how to be quiet. In fact, I have observed people in church, especially the way they treat their pastor's children. They don't treat their own children that way. They treat the pastor's child with contempt. Why? Because you assume that he's also a pastor. So it means it is how you interpret what you see in front of you that determines how you treat that thing. Perception defines reception. If I perceive you as a billionaire, the way I'm going to receive you and I'm going to act, I'm going to put up my best attitude, best behavior, just to be in your good book. But because you think with your child there is nothing to gain, I am his parent, you treat the child badly. In fact, in Norway, they live by 3 mantras that has revolutionized their prison system. They say when you treat a human being like an animal, it will respond with the energy of an animal. When you treat a human being like a human being, it will begin to behave like a human being. But when you treat a human being like a royalty, it will begin to respond like a king or like a queen. So they changed the eliminated death sentence in the prison system. They eliminated corporal punishment, eliminated maximum jail time became 22 years. And when you came to prison, the first thing they did was identity examination. When once they now find what you can do with your life, they begin to teach you who you are, and they begin to ask what you can do. So there were people who left prison to go and become surgeons. Now crime rate in Norway has dropped. They are closing down prison. In fact, as a prisoner, you have access to DSTV. You have access to if you are married, your wife can come and be sleeping with you because the bed is comfortable. The room is very good, right? So they because you are a prisoner doesn't make you less human being. We treat the child less than human being with the way we behave, and usually we do many of the anger and things that we do because there is anger inside of us. One, number two, we are afraid of what people will say. How will people say that the son of a pastor, the child of somebody that is praying? How can you turn out like this? So we now bully the child, and it's not supposed to be. Your child is a child. He will make mistake. Mistake is part of growth process, depending on how you say. You know, so it's what it is, and it starts with perceptual code. Once you create that perceptual code, the rest is easy. That's why I never shout for my kids, because their perceptual code is clear in my mind. We have honest conversation, and I correct behavior without necessarily getting into anger and tantrum. You know, in Africa, we think the more we shout, the more people can listen. It's not true.
Yes.
It's lack of power. Because wherever the power, one of the things is there is power. If I want to start my driver and I whisper to him and I say, you are fired, he's fired. Even if I send text message to him and I say you are fired, don't report, he's fired. But you know what we do? We need to shout, I am firing, you must not come again. No, you don't have power. If you have power, you don't have to shout for it to happen. Because my sheep hear my voice. A voice of a stranger they will not hear. If you understand that, then if your children don't hear your voice, then you need to check. Is there something going on? Are they truly my children, or something is going on, you know, in there? You know, so I treat people looking at myself and what I struggle with. Imperfect people have lost the right to judge other imperfect people. Your child is imperfect, you are imperfect. Nobody's slapping you for being imperfect. You are slapping your child for being imperfect. It's lack of communication skill. Talking, everybody can talk. Communication is a skill that must be learned. Africans don't like to learn that skill. We like to do what is very convenient, you know, and that's why we're here. So in co-parenting, the two people need to come together and agree. It cannot be my way, my way, my way. No. What is best for the child is what we need to do.
Wow. So much taking. Thank you so much, Pia. Many people have said this is really loaded already. Okay, Pia, because we was beginning to allow you, we're going to allow you go soon because of the emergency that popped up. Pia, we have parents, single mothers that do not have the financial capacity to keep their child with them, so the child doesn't live with them, so it has
Yeah.
to stay with one of the relative, mom. For some, they're gracious enough to be able to live with their baby the father's mom. Anyways, just stay around with relatives. So the child is not living with any of the parents because the parent is still even trying to build their own life. How can they parent effectively, or should I say, is distance parent possible in a case where a person doesn't see a child until every 2 weeks or even 3 weeks in some cases due to the work schedule of these parents? How can they parent their child in such a way that the child doesn't feel neglected or just dumped with one relative because my father and mother doesn't have the financial capacity to raise me at this point?
Well, you need to be there. Parenting is felt presence. It's not about money alone. Money is important, but you need to show up, right? As a matter of fact, in some cases, some children prefer their house help or their nanny to their real parent. Why?
Yes.
Parenting is care, is present. Nanny is who they see. Nanny is who cleans their food. Nanny is who shows up during sport day. So nanny is actually the parent, right? Remember that parenting is the word bring forth, right? And so it's not. I mean, if you are not, you don't have the financial, and they are living with grandma, how often do you show up? How often do you take them out? Moment is what your child remembers. It's not money. The children don't even know how much you pay as school fees. Moment. The times that I took a walk with my dad, the time that we ate together, the time that we went to places, and there are places that you don't need money to enter, right? And if you enter bus, you can get in the Sheraton and sit down there with your child. Let him run around. Let him get used to luxury. You know, let him get used to excellence and blah, 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 blah. Moment being there is what is most important. And I usually recommend, if you now want them to stay with grandma or whatever, right? If it's possible, have a conversation with them so that they know what your child perceptual code, right? Because grandmas, in their bid if in fact, grandmas can sometimes be very lenient, you know, and sometimes they can also be very hard, depending on their reality and their frustration, you know. So it's important for us to have a sit down. In co-parenting cases, usually all the fosters, all the support system, I sit with them when I'm mediating or moderating this process. I speak grandmas, anyone that the child is going to have access to. We agree, this is the role you have to play. So when the child comes, this is the scene in the child's movie. This is the role you need to play. This role does not require shouting, banking. If you have to shout, then call this person. This is the person. You know, you need to, you know, because we don't embrace systems in Africa. A lot of this happens by our emotions, and emotions cannot raise anything that will be sustainable. It will take systems for you to raise it, because, you know, one system is compromised, it affects the final output. So it's important for us to come together and discover who is this child going to be. If the child is going to be the next Bill Gates, then all of us need to play the role we need to play, not what we feel like doing, what we need to be, who we need to be for us to get the best out of the child. So those conversations need to happen. But if you are not financially buoyant and there are people supporting you, show up all the time. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rev. So the next question is one about co-parenting in the context of marriage. We've taken a survey on radio, and at different times people have shared that one of the fears that they have, especially men coming to get married to single mothers, is the single mothers going back to the baby father, to the father of the child. How can co-parenting be done in a marriage context right now, whether it's the single dad that is getting married to a single woman or the single mother to a man entirely different from the other parents of the child? How can marriage and co-parenting be done in a way that it doesn't intimidate the new partner that is coming into the play who wasn't there from the onset?
Well, if you are intimidation is immaturity. It's lack of security. That's what it is. There's no other way to describe it. If I have a wife and I'm afraid that someone is talking to my wife is going to take my wife away from me, then I'm not worthy of my wife. Right? Because within the context of husband, the word husband is the word bridegroom. Again, role description, job description. If you are a groomer of a bride, you cannot be insecure. You cannot have low self-esteem. And you cannot be afraid if you are a proper groomer, because the person that will take your groom away from you must be a superior groomer, right? So your insecurity is a feedback that you need to work on yourself, develop yourself to become indispensable. That's actually what it is. Now, so if that has been taken care of, like I said when I started, co-parenting is a role. It's a movie. So it's like your wife is going to be wife to Ramsey Noah in a movie, and there's going to be a kissing scene. Then you are watching and you are upset, and your wife comes, you begin to fight her. Say, da, 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 da. Why were you kissing? Blah, blah, blah. She's an actress. She's acting. That's why they say get into character. The problem will now come when she still is mistress after the location. So you cannot stop your wife from being a co-parent with the baby father, despite the fact that she's now married to you. That is where trust comes in. Do you trust your wife? If you don't trust your wife, why did you marry her? Because when people don't trust people, then there should be no relationship. Do you understand? We are not going to be around ourselves forever. But when I'm not there, do you trust me enough to be able to say, you know what, I trust what you can do? You're going to co-parent. What brings two people together in co-parent? We both need to get into character. We don't have to be friends in real life. You know, we want to act movie together. We don't have to be friends. But when we meet on location and we have been given the script, we need to act it out with the best set of professionalism to deliver and make it believable. That's what co-parenting is all about. So we don't have to be talking. But when the child is available, we must laugh. We must have honest conversation. We must be okay with ourselves. After the child is gone, we don't have to call ourselves again till we come together again. Do you understand? So when people understand this, it becomes very easy for them to navigate. But if the husband is insecure, then insecurity is his personal problem. Oh, it has nothing to do with you. And let him sort out himself. Because if he's insecure with the baby father, he will be insecure with your boss. He will be insecure when another person shows up. Everybody that shows up begins to intimidate him. It's a function of low self-esteem, and he needs to help himself with that low self-esteem.
Wow. Okay. PF, how can a single mother raise a child with special needs? What does she need to know, and what does she need to do, especially when she doesn't have the support of the fathers, of the child father? This case is not, he is not present.
Please get a support group. There are so many support groups for special needs children. That's your best bet. There are professionals that can also help. That's not my area of focus, so I don't really have so much knowledge on special need. I do strategy for the people who handle special need, but the reality is not my reality yet. However, I know there are support groups. In support groups, you will meet people who have gone through what you are going through, and they can put you through and support you. But that's why it's a support group, so that they can bear your burden and share their own experience, at least a place where you can excel. But see, when the biological father, again, let's not use fatherhood carelessly. Maybe we keep assuming that a human mobile sperm bank is a father. It's not the same. You need to, the person that provides, acts as the source of inspiration is the father. And an uncle can fill that role. A grandfather can fill that role. It doesn't have to be the person who donated the sperm. You know, so that's very, very key. And that's why don't just mix things up, because donated sperm doesn't make him a father. He can just donate sperm and say, I'm gone. Right? So God just bless with a mobile sperm bank and save you from IVF and spending 3 million. Right? So don't get it twisted. I think the meaning we give to things is what affects us the most.
So, PF, you are saying now that in the context where a sperm donor is unavailable, the mother doesn't need to keep pressing. She can just find those are available, or if those people are available to father the child, then she can go with it rather than keep forcing and stressing about, oh, I'm looking for the father of the child.
No.
And continuing with that conversation.
Because let me tell you, looking for him can even mess up the child. If he's a drunk, if he's a drunk, it's a threat to the sanity of the child you are trying to raise. So some people are not worthy of the stress. You don't have to bother yourself, right? You don't. I mean, if he's an irresponsible human being, how can he be? And he doesn't want to see the child. Why are you pushing the
See the
child to
child,
him?
yes.
So let's say you United the child should go and do holiday, but this man brings in a lot of women and gets drunk and they do sex orgies. The child is exposed to all sorts. So sometimes you protect your child from the madness. Do you understand? That's why sometimes
Yes,
people go to court
yes.
and they take full custody. If the father is into drug, there is no point sending your child to him and say it's co-parenting. How can a drug addict be co-parenting? No. Everything must be
Okay.
done in the best interest of the child.
Of the
If he shows
child.
up on location and is drunk, and we say, oh, let us do this movie, it's time to shoot, the guy is still drunk, you look for another actor. That's what it is. This is a role. It's not your identity, it's a role. And let's not get it twisted. The role has a lifespan. Do you understand? So if it's not
Yes.
capable, there is no point at all. Find someone else who can stand in, or you do it by yourself. It's not difficult.
Okay, so Pierre, there have been cases where, and this bothers single mothers a lot, where there are custody fights in the law courts, where a man who is not a responsible father is trying to fight to get shared custody of this child, and it is in the case that you shared, he's not present, and the mother is worried and stressed out because she is going ahead to get married, and the man is saying, because you are going ahead to get married, you must give me shared custody of the child, and there's all this drama because a single mother wants to go ahead to get married and move this child's care, custody, or fatherhood to someone who is responsible enough. What can she do in that unique situation?
Well, I always believe in mediation. Mediate. Get someone to mediate. But because you can always rent a space in the brain of someone, there's a way to appeal. Everyone has got a price tag, provided we're willing to pay it. Right? Both of you, in fact, in cases where there's a serious fight, you will realize that when I do past integration, both of them want the same thing. Both of them want a child who is turned out right. That's what both of them want. But oftentimes, the child now becomes the grass where the two elephants fight, and it's grass that suffers. So if they want the same thing, which we do in mediation, then who is the best fit to help us achieve this result? Right? If it's the mother, let the mother be. But if every means of being reasonable has now been exhausted, it's still not reasonable, within the ambit of the law, you can actually prove that this person is irresponsible. Where there are proofs that he's into drugs, is a drunk, the law will ask you to have full custody. And that's possible, right? But usually I always say, can we broker truths? Can we apply wisdom and negotiate? If negotiation can work, there's no need to go through the court and whatever. But where that has failed, then we might need to go through the law court, because that's why the law court is there. But I think negotiation can happen, mediation can happen, but where mediation has failed, just prove that this person cannot handle this child, and that's all. Because the Child's Rights Act provides for the best interest of the child and the protection of the child.
Yes. Okay, Pierre, the final question for you today is a child a strong enough reason to bring a single mom and single dad together in marriage? Is it a strong enough reason? Is it something they can reconsider?
Well, it's not strong. The child is not strong enough. However,
Oh, I can't hear PF again. Okay, I can hear him now.
Okay. Right. So what I think you need to do, what they think I think they need to do is that to check, do we still love ourselves? If there is love in there, then we can create systems to make it work. But wherein there is hatred, or I don't want to see this person, then there is no point. There is no point at all. People should go their separate ways. They are better co-parenting apart than coming together. But wherein they feel maybe what happened was a mistake or something, and we can still come together, I think they can. I actually think that's ideal. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again, but it must not be forced, and it must not be because of the child. No. Because co-parenting actually works if the right systems are deployed.
Okay. Pierre, do you have any final words for single moms and single dads out there? Pierre is receiving another phone call.
Yeah, these people are on my neck. So my final word is co-parenting must not be a war. Wise people and mature people should be able to resolve issues amicably. So get someone who is skilled at mediation to wade in and bring in wisdom into what the two of you need to do. The child is the star player in co-parenting, and the child must win at all times. It can't be the two of you, it must be about the child. And you see, when the right child emerges, the child will be grateful to the two of you. Very much. God bless you.
Thank you
Gatherer.
so much, PF. Yes, bye.